evening. Hello.
Celine Dion is going wow.
The world knows her simply by one name.
Cher, Madonna, Celine.
This is a dream come true.
Her voice is loved around the globe.
That was the song and the moment that she became international.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
But her mother didn't want her.
Her mother had actually gone to the priest and asked, could she please stop having children?
I have 13 brothers and sisters. I'm the accident.
She learned to be a fighter.
She was crying about it. She was screaming about it. She really just wanted to be home with him.
And had secrets to protect.
And one day, he was a free man. I was becoming a woman.
In the next hour, we chart the rise of one of the biggest stars in the universe.
It was like that moment in the movies when everything gets quiet. This is going to be one of the greatest singers that ever hit this planet.
This is Celine Dion.
Everything that's happening to me, I can't believe.
The E! True Hollywood story.
Come on. You want to hit the road with me, baby? Let's go.
She's broken the rules and show business will never be the same.
She changed Vegas. Vegas is no longer the same now.
You suddenly had other A-list artists. Elton John, Prince, Bette Midler, Toni Braxton, taking up residency in Vegas as well.
Life is short. You gotta go for it.
But Celine Dion didn't always have the world in the palm of her hands. In 1967, in the small village of Charlemagne, Quebec, Thérèse Dion received alarming news.
My mom was very shocked. She took a walk outside for about 2 hours, and she said, after 6 years, I'm pregnant.
The mother of 13 was distraught to learn she was expecting another child.
Her mother had actually gone to the priest and asked, could she please stop having children now that she used birth control, basically, and the priest said no, that was against God.
If God decides that I'm pregnant, it's because for something. I'm gonna keep that baby. And Celine was born.
Celine Dion was born March 30th, 1968, at Le Gardeur Hospital in Repentigny, Quebec.
I have 13 brothers and sisters. And at the end, completely, I'm the accident.
When she born, first cry. Her cry was very loud. So, wow, she's got a good voice.
Growing up in a house of 14 was a pleasure for her. She enjoyed every minute of it. She was treated as the star and the princess because she was the smallest one.
They would fight over who got to put the girl to bed and who got to give her a bath. They didn't have a lot of space, so the kids were actually sleeping in dresser drawers. They had one bathroom, 14 brothers and sisters and 2 parents, 16 people in the house, one bathroom. I don't even know how that would work.
The story wasn't made up, as is sometimes the case, to make it better. I mean, this was the real thing. She always stuck to the same story, and she always came from the same place.
The family was poor, and Celine's parents struggled to put food on the table. While her father worked odd jobs, her mother stocked shelves at a surplus store.
She worked like crazy. I mean, you give her a job to do and she wouldn't stop till it was done. And the kids were the same way, so it was a pleasure to have them here.
All of the kids were expected to get jobs as soon as they possibly could get jobs, and they would each have to put in $20 a week towards the family expenses.
Madame Dion came to me and she asked me if I had a job for Celine. And I said, well, if she works like her sisters, by all means, bring her in. 2 weeks later, I went to her and I said, well, where's Celine? Because I need somebody on the floor. And she said, Celine doesn't want to work. She just wants to sing.
We all push Celine in that direction because she has all the opportunity to grow. We knew she had talent.
Music was in her blood. Her father played the accordion, her mother the violin. Celine was a natural performer.
Her first performance, public performance, was when she was 5 years old at her brother Michel's wedding. She got up there to sing, And she said she was very, very nervous. You know, as she got up there, she was kind of looking around and feeling a little tense about it. But as soon as she started going and seeing people's faces, she loved it. She loved being there. And it was at that moment, at 5 years old, that she knew this is what I want to do with my life.
In 1978, Celine was ecstatic over the news that her father was opening a bar. The 10-year-old was ready to perform.
For her, it was like, I want to sing, Mom. Give me the chance. I want to sing. I love singing.
It's there that I realized that singing was my life.
But her late-night singing gigs interfered with school, and Celine's grades started to slip.
Her mind was more focused on music than on the school.
10th grade is when she actually dropped out. But before that point, she was kind of sketchy about being in school. She would perform a lot of nights and have a hard time getting up for school the next morning. And so she had a lot of absences. Her grades weren't terrific.
Celine's mother realized school was not for her daughter, but she couldn't let her youngest throw her life away singing in local bars. She had to take action.
Our mother's been a very important guiding force for her from the very beginning and remains to this day.
And I was telling my mother, Mom, please, I want to sing. I want to be on television. I want to do some shows. I want to perform on stage. And she said, okay.
Coming up, Celine under pressure.
He asked me to sing in front of him. I said, no music, nothing. He said, exactly.
By 1980, Thérèse Dion knew her daughter Celine had an exceptional gift for singing. Taking matters into her own hands, Mrs. Dion took the first step towards breaking the 12-year-old into show business.
It was very difficult for them at first to find songs that were going to be appropriate for Celine at 12 years old because, you know, she can't sing love songs at that point. She doesn't have a lot of life experience, so there's kind of limited things that you can sing about as a 12-year-old.
My first song was Ce n'était qu'un rêve. It was only a dream. And we decided to record that song at home just with a guitar and with a little tape cassette.
And then from there, she said, well, who's the best manager in Quebec? Who is the best manager in Quebec?
That man was René Angelil. But getting his attention was not easy.
And we wait a couple of days. No answer, no phone calls, nothing.
And her mother brought it to René's office without realizing that at that point in his life, he was about to quit the music industry. He didn't even listen to the demo tape.
He was ready to go back to law school and take up a new career.
And my brother called at the office. Hi, Mr. Angela. I sent you a cassette, and I know that you didn't listen to it because you would have called me right away. Please listen to the cassette.
I was listening to that voice and I was moved. It was touching me. I wanted to see her. I wanted to meet her in person. I wanted to see if she could sing like that for real, live.
He listened to it 5 minutes after. He called back and said, I would love to see the girl.
His first impression was not so great because he didn't think that she was particularly cute.
Growing up, Celine's bad teeth were the reason behind her nickname, Vampire Queen.
So he said, I don't know if she's going to make a great impression on people because her teeth were bad. She didn't have great hair. She was kind of awkward looking at that age.
René Angelil was skeptical until he heard the unassuming 12-year-old sing.
He asked me to sing in front of him. I said, no music, nothing. He said, exactly. I said, well, I'm used to sing with a mic, though. And I had 12 years old at that time. He said, I'm going to give you my pen. So I started to sing the song, and he said to me that I became another person.
He was speechless. And it brought a tear to his eyes.
And we just, I don't know, we signed a contract, we started to work together, and he's my best friend.
He remembers that day and speaks about that day as if it happened yesterday. That's how profound it was when he first met her.
René's next move was a bold one.
When you go to a record company and you say that you want to do an album with a 12-year-old, they don't applaud. They don't say that's great. Nobody wanted to to invest the money, so I decided to start my own record company.
He mortgaged his home to finance her first 2 albums because he couldn't find a studio that would agree to put out 2 albums at once. He felt like if there were 2 albums out at once, people would take notice and say, oh, I should figure out who this person is who's got these 2 brand new albums. So they did a Christmas album and a regular album at the same time.
He basically said to Celine's mother, Madame Dion, if you let me take this project on, I'll make your daughter a star in 5 years.
And he did. The albums were a huge hit in Quebec. French Canada fell in love with both Celine and the song her mother roughly recorded on a cassette tape.
I was lucky. I'm a lucky girl, a lucky singer.
In Quebec, Celine was a very big star. She had broken the record at the Théâtre Saint-Denis, doing 21 shows in a row. Everywhere she went, people knew who she was. She'd sold hundreds of thousands of LPs at the time, records, as well as cassette tapes. She was a big, big star.
By 1984, Celine had become a household name in Quebec. The 17-year-old was honored to sing for the Pope.
I sang a song for him. I met him after I was in Paris. I just didn't know what to say to him. Of course not. You just don't know.
Despite her success, Celine managed to stay grounded.
She would sign autographs for hours after each show, and there would be people in wheelchairs that would just hold her hand, and she really has this thing. I've seen her done things that are really exceptional. Taking a car and going to visit a kid that could not come to the show, and that I've sent her a letter saying, I've asked God to see you, and he didn't listen to me. I'm in the hospital.
And there was one fan in particular that Celine adored. Celine's niece Corinne suffered from cystic fibrosis, an incurable and debilitating disease.
Celine Dion became the marraine, which means patron of our Quebec Association. She already, I guess, was very much aware that her niece was struggling against this disease. She wanted to help.
In 1985, Quebec singing star Celine Dion and her manager René Angélil decided it was time to break out of French Canada.
They wanted to go English. How do we do that? And it's very difficult. She couldn't speak a word of English. She would say yes and no,
She had formidable success in French, but the idea of bringing an artist whose second language was English was still a pretty novel concept.
Celine's voice was ready, but her looks were a different story.
She had a brown perm and heavy eyebrows. She wasn't particularly sexy.
Celine's manager, René Angélil, had a plan.
They took an 18-month hiatus. She took a crash course in English that was really just 2 months long, but it was like a full-time job. It was 9 to 5, 5 days a week. She got her hair cut, she had braces put on, she had her teeth capped, wore sexier clothes. She was thrilled about that because till that point her mother made all of her clothes and they were these very high-necked, lacy things with ruffles and all that because she was a child.
When she transitioned from this youthful teen, if you will, to the young woman, that was a natural evolution for her.
In 1990, there was no stopping the newly polished, sexy Celine Dion. Fresh from her hiatus, she released her first English album, Unison. The first single, Where Does My Heart Beat Now, was a massive hit.
For me, it's a dream come true. I sing and I do what I love to do. It's wonderful.
When I first heard about Celine, it was like one of those moments, like a big event in your life. I mean, it's so fixed in my brain. I was thinking that this is going to be one of the greatest singers that ever hit this planet.
That same year, Celine picked up 2 awards at the Junos, Canada's biggest music prize.
Everybody was blown away at the Junos, a standing ovation. So I think that performance made a big difference in her career.
But not everyone was happy for Celine. Her French-speaking fans felt betrayed.
In Quebec, some people may have voiced a concern that, why do you have to sing in English? But those who did probably felt it was more of a political situation.
Hurt by the remarks and upset over losing core fans, Celine stood by her Francophone roots when she rejected Quebec's Felix Award for Best English Artist.
It was just not the right category. It's not because I'm not proud.
She's the Queen Celine of Quebec, and they own her. And she repays them in the fact that she'll never, ever deny that. She will, in fact, embrace that.
The controversy didn't stop Celine from dreaming big.
Celine, in 1985, was watching television and saw Michael Jackson and saw the crowd's reaction to him, and she said, I want to be like that. I can see myself up there.
From the get-go, she would always tell me, Vito, I'm going to the top. And she would tell Renee, too, we're going to the top.
By 1992, Celine was ready to take on America. Renee pulled out all the stops, enlisting the help of Uber producer David Foster.
With or without me, she was getting there. There was just no doubt about it in my mind. I was just absolutely positive about it. She will stand in front of that microphone for hours and try and give me everything that I want. Back in the day, she would put her hand up and ask if she could go to the bathroom.
Celine's next English disc went multi-platinum.
And I used to tell her, I said, you know, Celine, one day you're not going to have to say your last name. No, you think so? Yeah, you're only going to have to say Celine. Everybody, the whole world's going to know you. Cher, Madonna, Celine. It's going to be so simple.
Celine attracted the attention of Disney execs and recorded the theme to their animated film, Beauty and the Beast. The song reached #1 on American charts.
It's almost a Cinderella-like fairy tale type story because everything just got bigger and bigger and bigger all the time.
Here we are at the Oscars. The song is nominated. The song won. I don't know if I'm dreaming. This is a dream come true.
The moment of her walking on stage and singing the song was the most exciting moment, even more than winning the Oscar. It was incredible. You know that everyone was listening, and these are big stars, movie stars. Everyone was listening, everyone was paying attention, and she completely made them love her,
People learned how to say her name when Beauty and the Beast came out. They knew it wasn't Celine or Salon. At that point, they got Celine Dion.
The exposure earned Celine the deal of a lifetime, a contract with Sony Music for $10 million.
The family were proud. Renee was proud. She was happy and proud.
But Celine was preoccupied with something else. She was secretly in love with a man 2 decades her senior, longtime friend and manager René Angelil.
It was apparent to her family pretty early on because she was actually falling asleep with his picture on her pillow, and they realized that it was a crush.
Coming up, Forbidden Love.
Renee was very scared that this was going to affect her career negatively.
By 1992, Celine Dion had fallen in love with her manager, René Angelil. Not only was he older, he was twice divorced with children of his own.
I was first to go for it. I said, you know what? You should. You're 19 years old. You're allowed loving who you want.
And one day, he was a free man. I was becoming a woman, And it was a kiss goodnight, and it was like, bye, thanks. It was different.
Her mother was not thrilled about this at first. She definitely had some concerns about the fact that he was older and he was divorced. She did come around probably 6 months, a year, something like that, when she realized that he only had the best intentions for her. He was not using her in any way. He had really devoted his life to her. And I guess it was as soon as she realized he was not going to break her heart. This was the only man she ever kissed in her life. I find that phenomenal.
But it was difficult for the couple to be happy. Renee and Celine worried their age difference was too much for the public to handle.
Renee was very scared that this was going to affect her career negatively. He was worried that the public was not going to like the fact that she was with an older man and that it was her manager. When people would ask her questions, so are you single? Is there any love in your life? And things like that. And she was dying to say, yes, there is. And she couldn't say that. So, she was kind of having to keep something secret, which is not in her nature. She's such an open person.
In 1993, Celine went public with the love affair the best way she knew how, in song.
She wanted to yell to the world, she wanted to scream to everybody, this is what it is. And The Color of My Love became, obviously, that big statement.
There's one song, The Color of My Love, on that album that is one of my favorites, and I dedicate this song to him.
We're talking about an artist who was squeaky clean, more or less, never been associated with so much as, you know, lighting a cigarette. So here she's admitting that she's in love with a man that's more than 2 decades older than her. You would think that had the potential to be viewed as somewhat scandalous.
Rene was waiting to see how people were going to react, and he was very pleasantly surprised to find out that her fans, there was no big reaction to it. There was no, oh my goodness, she's with an older man and he's divorced. There was none of that. People were supportive, and it wasn't a huge issue in the press or anything.
We're all very happy about what's happened to Rene and Celine, and Rene loves Celine, and Celine loves Rene.
In May of that year, reality hit Celine hard. Her niece Corinne was losing her battle with cystic fibrosis.
Karine may have been expected to live out her teens, and sadly, that isn't how it worked. Celine Dion was very much affected by the loss of her niece, who died in her arms.
Celine was very, very close with Karine. She was there when she died, and that was a very emotional, moving experience for her.
I remember when she came to our annual meeting, and she actually was in tears. She said that she had promised Karine that they would solve this disease, that Karine would be saved. And at the same time, I think Celine took a page from Karine's book. This wasn't about Karine alone, it was about other kids. And so she carried on, and I would say, potentially, certainly with no loss of energy this time for everyone who had CF.
Karine's death gave Celine a new perspective on life. On her 25th birthday, she said yes to Rene's proposal of marriage.
It's a great love story. It's a beautiful love story. I was lucky to organize the wedding for them. I only asked her, what do you want? She said, I want a fairy tale.
December 17th, 1994 was an unforgettable day for the city of Montreal, Quebec. Fans screamed wildly outside the church for Quebec's royal couple.
It was incredible. Traffic was stopped. It was a big day for Canada. The dress, I remember the dress. The dress like went on forever.
And she was very proud she didn't cry, because the press used to say that she was always crying. For a while, when she was winning trophies or when something good happened, she was crying, but at her wedding, she was perfect. And you know what is fantastic about him? He is as impressed by her that he was years ago.
You could think of anybody else being with Celine, and you could, I don't think, really think of anybody else being with Rene.
And they're really, really a fantastic couple too. Laughing a lot. She's teasing him all the time.
They were a team. They were meant for each other.
Marriage didn't slow the newlyweds down. Their hectic schedule forced them to cut their honeymoon short. Rumors were circulating that Rene was working Celine too hard.
When they say that Rene was pushing her too hard, I don't think he was. He was just organizing her time. And because of her success, there was a lot of things to do.
Personally, I think she's working too much.
I'm the one who decides that I want to do that. If I'm tired of it, I will stop. Trust me.
In 1994 and 95, Celine's back-to-back French albums solidified her position as the largest-selling Francophone artist.
French is, of course, natural for me, and I will always sing in French.
For her English fans, she embarked on consecutive world tours in support of her 1996 Grammy Award-winning album, Falling Into You.
I never look back, because there's so much things waiting for me.
But her next move was bigger than she could ever imagine.
I think it's the song that propelled her into super stardom.
Celine recorded the title track to the film Titanic.
My Heart Will Go On just took it to the next level.
Certain people at Sony didn't believe in the song, but Rene believed in it, I believed in it, and we said, no, this is going to be the big one. And it was the big one.
I remember being in Vietnam, and that on the boat, that music was playing, and the people on the boat were singing that song. They didn't speak a word of English, but they were trying to sing that song. And it was everywhere like that.
That's the song that became the biggest radio airplay song ever.
To me, it's not a movie. To me, it has nothing to do with a song. It's to do with a magic moment that people want that moment to live forever. And when you're being part of something that will be remembered forever, you're very lucky.
But Celine's fairy tale career had its share of hiccups.
Critics have always been almost universally unkind to Celine Dion.
And tabloids regularly scrutinized her day-to-day life.
Sometimes there are cover stories like that, you know, she's anorexic, for example. And she laughs that off. You know, she eats a ton, for example. She's just blessed with a very slim figure.
I don't really pay attention too much on what's going on in newspaper.
We know that not everyone's going to love her. You know, it's impossible. But there's a whole bunch of people that do, and that's what we kind of focus on.
Celine could not be stopped. With astronomical album sales and a Grammy win for the Titanic hit, Celine became one of the most powerful names in show business. But triumph was overshadowed again by tragic news. Celine noticed a lump on the side of her husband's neck.
Everybody panicked. She panicked, Renee panicked, I panicked, everyone, her family panicked. They said, oh, this is over.
He had a form of skin cancer, and he needed to go through chemotherapy. She wanted to quit the tour that she was doing at the time and just be there for him.
In 1998, Celine Dion's single, My Heart Will Go On, dominated the charts.
That was the song and the moment that she became international.
But her personal life spiraled downward. Her husband, Rene, was cheating death.
He had a form of skin cancer, and he needed to go through chemotherapy.
When she started to feel that he had that same need for her, and she felt a bigger responsibility, probably the first time she felt responsible for them as a couple.
She went to the treatments with him. She stayed with him. She talked with him. She looked at movies with him. When he was sleeping, she was close to him. She was with him all the time.
Celine's European tour was approaching, and the thought of leaving her husband's side tore her in two.
As a couple, when something happened like this, you want to stay close to him.
He had been there in the audience for every single performance she had ever done since she was 12 years old.
The biggest tour of her career, and him not be by her side?
For him suddenly to not be at any of the shows was going to be very difficult for both of them.
What he said to her was, look, this is what we've been working for. This is what we've been working for all our life. You know, this is what, you know, if you don't go out and do the tour, if you don't go out there and do what we've, you know, what we set out to do together to accomplish our goals, you know, I'm not going to feel any better.
So he had a big screen TV at home where he could watch her doing her shows, and she had an earpiece directly connected to him. And she said, you know, after every song that she sang, he'd be in her ear saying, I love you, that was wonderful, you just did a wonderful job, that was terrific, I love you so much.
While he was doing his chemotherapy, she wanted to come back and go to the hospital with him every day, which she did, so we made some adjustments in the tour. They go through a couple of weeks of chemotherapy, she'd get back on a plane, come back out, we continue the tour.
Doctors warned Renee's chemotherapy could lead to infertility. The possibility of Celine becoming a mother was suddenly under threat.
Family is everything, so for her, it was very important to have kids.
As a precautionary measure, the couple froze a sample of Renee's sperm.
Celine had tried very much to convince herself that if it happens, it happens, if it doesn't, it doesn't. But in her heart, Celine really, really wanted to have children.
By the end of 1998, Celine finished touring and did something long overdue.
Celine has taken very few breaks throughout her career. She's really worked from the time that she was 12 years old on. So she definitely came to a point where she needed a break, because nobody can go like that forever.
I've been on the road recording in French and in English and touring all the time and without any stop. So it seems not normal for people for me to stop.
The press spun Celine's break into rumors of retirement. Fans were troubled by the news.
Stopping totally
How can she do that? How can you do that when you have you're so gifted?
She had just come off a gigantic world tour that had lasted well over 2 years, that was basically telling the world she was the biggest star in the world. I thought, personally, what a great way to take a little break.
Because she's never taken a break. 2 years is not the end of the world. For her that released records every year. I think even the public wanted a little break.
The best way to go out is on top. And that's exactly what she did.
While Celine was taking it easy, Renee was given a clean bill of health. The couple realized it was the perfect time to start a family, but it wouldn't be easy.
She was really trying to have a baby, and they weren't successful. And so often she would read the tabloids, oh, she's pregnant, oh, she had another miscarriage, yeah, she must have had another miscarriage. And it broke her heart to read these things because, this was her life.
It's not like, okay, you're gonna press a button, I want a baby now. It doesn't work like this. Sometimes, unfortunately, we've been working on that for a little while now.
She's talked so candidly about fertility treatments, too. That's another thing that I think is pretty remarkable, that most people are not going to get into that kind of detail with you and let you know exactly how she got pregnant and exactly that, they've got another embryo waiting for them. She feels that it's not okay to say, okay, I want you to buy all my records, I want you to come to all my shows, but I don't want you to know anything about my life.
In 2000, Renee was unexpectedly accused of sexual assault from a woman in California. The situation jeopardized his health. He lost his appetite and dropped in weight. But good news emerged during the difficult time.
Luckily, though, they went for fertility treatments and were successful. She decided to announce it immediately because she didn't want those same tabloids to be able to get the scoop, She gained 55 pounds when she was pregnant, and she loved it. She loved the way her body looked. She loved, she definitely had that pregnancy glow about her.
On January 25, 2001, after 14 hours of labor, Renee Charles was welcomed into the world. Celine was a mother.
The most important thing for her is her son, family. Singing is not as important to her as it used to be.
Her family is so important that that's all she talks about.
The celebration continued. The sexual assault case against Renee was dropped when no sufficient evidence was found.
Celine received all this support from the family. And I remember it was a pretty tough time, but again, fight and we win.
Celine was enjoying motherhood, but she found it difficult to shake her desire to sing.
They went to see a Cirque du Soleil show, and she was so in love with the show. She was so in love with the visual aspects of it. And she said, that's not just one person standing there singing, that's a whole show around the person. I would love to do something like that.
Coming up, Celine snaps.
She begged Renee, please get me out of this, please get me out of this, because I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be a mom, that's all I want to do.
In 2001, Celine had taken a 2-year break from her career to be a full-time mom, but the star couldn't deny her need to sing.
I would venture to say that Celine is in her best environment when she's on stage. That's what she loves to do more than anything else.
Inspired by Cirque du Soleil's O, Celine and her husband, René Angelil, decided they would return to show business Vegas style.
That's the genius of these two people, is that they decided to go to Las Vegas at the perfect time where the record business was going through oops and downs,
Celine's commitment to spend a couple years in residency in Las Vegas was tremendously risky. A-level artists didn't do that sort of thing.
People thought they were crazy, and they said, this is where singers go when their careers are over. This is where washed-up people go, to have their careers die.
The plan was risky, but Celine signed a deal with Caesar's Palace. The casino would build a $95 million set that would be her home for the next 3 years. Instead of Celine going to her fans, she prayed her fans would come to her.
I'm looking forward to it because I'm going to be able to give my fans not only singing one song after the other, but I'm going to be able to give them a visual show. I want every song to become like a visual experience, like something that they've never seen before. And to be able to do that, it's technically impossible for us to travel with a show, a big show like that.
The idea might have been regarded as perhaps arrogant. Celine made it clear, I want to set up roots because I want to be with my kid.
I can have a life, stability for my son. Sleeping in the same bed for 3 years, I've never had that in the past.
It was a big gamble on both parts. It was a big gamble on Caesar's end to put in this kind of money, and it was a big gamble on Celine's end to be willing to stay in one place like that for so long and hope that her fans are all going to travel to her. And there were rumors, you know, the tabloids were saying, oh, she's not going to really stick it out for all this time. She's going to wind up, you know, doing 5 shows and then quit.
But the cynicism surrounding the show did not diminish Celine's enthusiasm.
We showed some of the work that I had created, and she just started crying, and she just jumps out of her seat, and she just ran over to me and jumped on my lap and gave me the biggest hug, and it was just so, it was amazing.
But while the show was taking shape, Celine started to doubt her decision to return to work.
She did not want to go to Las Vegas anymore. She begged Renee, please get me out of this. Please get me out of this because I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be a mom. That's all I want to do.
It would cost $50 million to back out of the Caesars Palace deal. Renee and Celine nervously forged ahead. On March 25, 2003, Celine Dion's A New Day made its Vegas debut. The risky venture paid off. Caesars 4,000-seat arena was sold out for the next 3 years.
Shall we go for it?
It gives us a chance to perform an incredible show that couldn't be done on tour.
Opening night in Las Vegas, someone misplaced her shoes. So she came out in bare feet, and she carried on a conversation with the audience, just as if the show was meant to be that way.
It was the chance for her to do something different, to work with a group of dancers in sometimes very difficult situations because the stage has an angle that is very, very difficult for the body. And to sing like this every night, all the artists that came to see her on the show would tell her, how can you do that? How can you do that?
It's a landmark. It made history.
And the star eased into her role as both mom and superstar.
She said, I know this sounds a little cuckoo, but I really feel that he understands how torn I am inside. He understands what her role was going to be. It took him some time to be able to watch his mother on a stage and not cry and not want to run up there and, you know, need his mommy.
While her son was dealing with change, Celine was coping with death. On November 30th, 2003, her father, Ademar, passed away. But the news didn't stop her from taking the stage.
There was a show that night, and she did a show like, you know, with a lot of emotion, but she did it because the show must go on. And Celine is a strong woman.
He was the first one getting the standing ovation. I mean, he was just such a fan. And obviously, that part of him not being there, I think Celine misses a lot. And I think we all miss it because he was just this great spark plug.
In 2004, Celine Dion's Vegas show, A New Day, continued to build momentum. Extended from 3 to 5 years, she performed to nearly 3 million fans, grossing $400 million.
She's the only artist that's been there for 5 years, sold out, a 4,000-seater, which is unbelievable.
You suddenly had other A-list artists. Elton John, Prince, Bette Midler, Toni Braxton, taking up residency in Vegas as well. I have no doubt that Celine changed the face of show business in Las Vegas.
On December 15, 2007, Celine's contract at Caesars Palace had run its course.
Closing night was magical. She was just like marinating in this last performance. Everybody was just experiencing it to the fullest. And then at the end, you know, all these rose petals started falling and raining, and it was gorgeous.
It's going to be hard to leave. Very, very emotional.
In 2007, Celine returned to the recording studio to work on Taking Chances, her first English album in more than 3 years.
Feels like a new beginning for me.
Celine updated her look and repertoire to prove she was still a contender.
She really did want to make an effort to try something a little different stylistically. For 4.5 years, she had sung the same songs. She's not the same woman she was when she recorded The Power of Love, or even My Heart Will Go On.
Critics weren't impressed with Taking Chances. The disc sold below expectations.
Her voice is very versatile. So I think she wants to try a number of different styles and not worry as much about hitting the charts.
Music will forever be a part of Celine's life, but family will always come first.
Now that her mother is getting older, she's trying to have her mother with her 6 months a year, and maybe sometimes more.
She's a good wife. She's a good mom. Now she's gonna start to cook. Learn from my mom how to cook. This is important for her.
She's the last one of that family. They're 14, like you know. She said, what makes me sad is to think that all the people I love are so much older than me, that the people she likes dearly will disappear before her.
The future for her, honestly, she wants to have a really family-oriented life. She will never leave the business. She loves singing too much.
She is one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. We hung out until 4 o'clock in the morning, night after night after night, just having girl talk. She would come in and ask me for my permission for things. You know, do you mind if I sit down on the floor? And I'm like, you're Celine Dion. Do whatever you want.
She's an entire woman. She's a perfect woman. I'm very proud of her.
Is there anybody on this planet that could complain that they didn't get enough Celine Dion? Nobody. She gave and gave and gave.
Celine is the consummate girl next door. She's your sister, she's your friend. You can hang out with her. You don't have to feel that you're in the presence of someone who's larger than life, even though she is larger than life.
I think that there's a battle inside of her. There's the performer and there's the woman. The woman, the mother, the wife. She is trying to make the two work fine together.
She's just a great, great girl. She always has been, she always will be.
I'm doing it now more than ever because I love to.